Antarctic minke whale, the most abundant whale species in the Southern Ocean. 15 years ago, commercial whaling was banned. But one nation still hunts Antarctic minkies. Masayuki Komatsu is the architect of Japan's pro-whaling campaign. He is Japan's lead negotiator at the International Whaling Commission. He wants his country to restart commercial whaling sustainably. Dr. Seiji Osumi shares the belief that science, culture, and necessity are on their side. Each year they send their fleet out to hunt whales in the name of research. They call this science, but to Greenpeace and some anti-whaling nations, this is commercial whaling under another name. And it's Greenpeace's images that have been winning the propaganda war and fueling a mood of defiance in Japan. For them, it is time to hit back. It is here in Japan where the real fight back must begin. Since the ban on commercial whaling, a generation of Japanese have ceased to believe that eating whale meat is a central part of their culture. Now the pro-whalers are deploying controversial science to support their campaign. They claim whales must be culled to save Japan's fish.
こういった日本人がですね、大好きな魚をですね、大量に、食べてるという結果がすでに、我々得られてるわけですね。
They are exporting the message to the Caribbean and are winning converts to their cause. This is the inside story of their campaign, to persuade both their own population and the outside world that the time has come to end the ban. November the 6th, 2001. Today, Japan's whaling fleet departs for the Antarctic. It is an important event for the port of Shimonoseki and the start of the campaign to demonstrate Japanese credentials as a whaling nation.
調査船団の出港式を始めるにあたりまして、被災者を代表いたしましてご挨拶を申し上げます。そして
Flanked by Mr. Komatsu, Dr. Osumi presides over the departure ceremony.
出港式に参加してくださりありがとうございました。今回で第15回目となりました。東側で黒ミンククジラ440頭を乗組員のご家庭の皆さんには留守中ご家庭をしっかり守っていただいて、乗組員が調査に専念できるように頑張ってください。そして、お見送りの皆様、本日は、この出港式にご参加くださりありがとうございました。調査の成功と捕鯨の早期、再開のために一層のご鞭撻をよろしくお願い申し上げます。
Politely standing to one side are the opposition. Greenpeace's Japanese branch is small, but they've been getting their ideas across. Close by in Shimonoseki's new dolphinarium are the first hints that the environmentalist movement may be undermining the campaign. A whole generation has lost contact with Japan's whaling tradition in the 15 years since commercial hunting was banned. For many, the thought of whales conjures up an image of whale watching rather than hunting. some think of an endangered species rather than a national dish.
クジラ自体は食べたことあります？
前は、一昔前はね、食べるとかそういうのは流行りっていうかありましたけど、今はもう口にすることはないですね。やっぱりいろいろテレビとか見てたらそういうボランティアの方とかいろいろやられてるんで、今はそういうの食べないようにはしてます。
クジラはなんか
数も少ないし、
あるじゃないですか。
感情とかもなんかね、普通の魚よりはクジラとかの感情とか哺乳類だけありそうだし。
日本の我々みたいな古い人間はね、やっぱ貧乏な時に美味しい味っていうか、それは忘れられるんですよ。
クジラを取ることについては、
クジラもあんまり取ってほしくない。
Shimonoseki's schoolchildren have been invited for a tour of the fleet. It's an opportunity to win over young hearts and minds.
鳥がここを引けばドーンっていう鳥が取れる。
怖いっちゃう。
お腹の中に入ってお腹の中に張り付くための火薬をまた取り入ってる。ね、だからクジラやっぱり1個ぐらいから殺すのがかわいそうだから早くそう落ちてやろう。だからね、いい？
お締めでございますので、僭越でございますけれども、乾杯の音頭を取らせていただきます。ここで方々にご唱和願います。乾杯！乾杯！
The whalers are going to be away from their families for 5 months, during which time they'll face the relentlessly long days of the Antarctic summer and a much livelier reception from Greenpeace. When they return, they will have 440 minkies on board. If Dr. Osumi and the men from the ministry have their way at the IWC, the number will increase to 2,000.
Sanctuary now, don't abstain. Sanctuary now, don't abstain. Sanctuary.
Every year, the International Whaling Commission meets to deliberate on the management of whales and whaling. Japan is not the only country with whaling interests, but Masayuki Komatsu and his team are the most active and controversial. Each year, their ambitions to resume commercial whaling are thwarted. Their self-belief is undaunted.
This is a long-term fight, so we continue to fight because reason is with our side and science is demonstrating that what Japan is asserting is the right thing.
But 2002 is different. They're going to be negotiating on their home territory. Preparations are underway in Shimonoseki. Japan is hosting the IWC meeting in the town's brand new civic center. With the eyes of the world upon them, Japan's pro-whalers are determined to shore up public opinion.
IWC を国内でやることによって日本の人たちにですね、捕鯨の問題、それからクジラの問題っていうのを十分にPR する、正しく理解するいい機会であるということ。
But does 21st century Japan, with its population of 126 million people, still see itself as a whaling nation? The government is determined to ensure that it does. It is an auspicious day at the Ministry of Agriculture, Forestry and Fisheries, the epicenter of Japan's whaling interests. A whaling campaign van has arrived. In all, 3 such vehicles will be combing the length and breadth of the country to spread the whaling message and collect signatures for a nationwide petition of support. Mr. Komatsu is in attendance. It's a chance to distribute his book, It's Okay to Eat Whale Meat. Today's event provides one of those PR opportunities so much desired by Dr. Usumi.
本日はご多忙の中、このように、関係者の方たくさんお集まりいただきまして本当にありがとうございます。我々は、クジラが非常に商業捕鯨を中断して15年経って増えているということ、そしてクジラが魚を大量に食べているということ、この2点をですね、国民の皆さんに訴えながら広く国民の皆さん方に PR をしてまいりたいと思います。我々一度事故のないように十分注意してまいりますけれども、どうも本日はありがとうございました。
This is Kunio Yonesawa, the IWC negotiator at the time whaling was banned. It's a bitter memory.
いよいよ下関の会議まであと2ヶ月。我々も国際条約を守らない、また科学者の言うことを聞かない、自分たちの一回約束したことを守らない、反捕鯨国の無理を全国にの皆さんに訴えていきたいと思いますので、一つこれから体に気をつけて大いに頑張っていただきたいと思います。どうもありがとうございます。ありがとうございます。どうも。
They have got 2 months to broadcast the message.
空港の玄関を出発しまして、これから一路下関へ向けて全国をキャラバンいたします。お見送りありがとうございました。
Old whaling villages like Kayoe have a role to play in the campaign. Its whaling routes run deep. Kayoe is famous for its monument to 70 fetuses recovered from the wombs of dead whales. Dr. Usumi arrives with 2 coachloads of pro whalers. They've come to imbibe some ancient whaling culture. Whales have been honored in this temple for hundreds of years.
日本は昔から魚、海産物を食してまいりました。でその一番大きな動物であるクジラも食してきたということからクジラを死後のクジラを弔ったと、そういうことで、人に使っている南無阿弥陀仏という言葉をそのまま使っております。そして、その下に強人無常、命ある体をダメにしてしまった、殺してしまった、どうぞその極楽へ行って、後々の命をというそういう願いを込めた位牌でございます。
こんな感じのものです。人並みに、ちゃんとこう漢字で、戒名が付けられてます。
これが観音様の下。
表装し直した感じですね。前に私49年前に来た時に。
あ、そうですか。
There is no doubting the depth of the culture represented here, but it only ever existed in a few coastal villages. Whaling only became important to the entire Japanese nation in the late 1940s. This publicity film for the Antarctic whaling fleet captures the glory days of Japanese whaling. By the early 60s, they were catching over 13,000 whales a year. Tomohisa Nagaoka was a top harpooner. In 20 years, he killed 4,000 whales. He's pictured here sitting in the mouth of a blue whale.
だから機関長だったらエンジンをいっぱい待てとかね、このクジラ速いから飛ばせも飛ばせってもう煙突からもうポンポン火の粉が出るぐらい回ってくれたり、それをそういう風に自分が仕向けていった。
Sharing his whale meat dinner is Shojiro Matsumoto, whose tally was nearly 5,000 whales, and Yoshinobu Chiyooka, who killed over 7,000. Between the three of them, they harpooned nearly 16,000 whales.
24時間のうちに明るい時は22時間ぐらいあるの。取ってノルマ取ったらそれでも休みやけどね、ノルマ取らなかったらもう明るいうちやったらもう追いかけっぱなしやからね。
でもとにかく大時期の日でももう船からしょっちゅう流されてね、痛いドタンと落ちるわけですよ。
ほんでもうクジラを捕らえてくれたらもう一遍南極に行きたいなというところでお金いらんから
お金いらんからね、南極へもう一回行きたいよね。死ぬまで早いかと今度先が短いんで、
大きなクジラをもう2、3頭取ってみたいわ。それで
The first catch of the year, a fin whale.
体長24メートルもあろうと思われるナガスクジラを迎えてお祝いの酒樽を
In accordance with tradition, a sake barrel is cracked open and a toast is drunk to the success of the forthcoming season.
一同杯をあげての初漁を祝い、
It was the terrible devastation of the Second World War that led to Japan's emergence as a whaling nation. The deprivations of the war and harvest failure led to near starvation. The head of the US occupying forces, General Douglas MacArthur, ordered the Japanese fleets to the Antarctic to find much-needed protein. At its height, the Antarctic fleet was processing 220,000 tons of whale meat a year. For 30 years, all Japanese schoolchildren ate it regularly for their school dinners. Whale meat provided 47% of the animal protein in the Japanese diet in the post-war years. The Japanese were latecomers to an already overexploited industry. By now, many whale species were becoming endangered. Many ex-whaling nations were calling for a halt. Japan and some other nations carried on regardless.
そのところ日本がもう唯一のずば抜けて一番よく取っとったんですよ、日本の船団が。だから後からこれではいかんということで IWC で国別割り当てとかなんとかそういうのが決められてきたんで、そういうのを早くから知っておけばもっと長持ちしたんじゃないかなと、もう今になって思うんですけどね。実際自分がクジラを追っかけてる時にはそういう感覚は全然なかったですよ。
It is often forgotten that Western countries decimated many whale species. The Japanese resent being the conservation movement's whipping boys.
As history identified that American, British, Dutch, and Norwegians depleted many species whales, particularly sperm whale in the Pacific, right whale all over the world, and the blue whale in the Antarctica. It's not Japanese type of whaling.
Since the ban, some, though not all, whale species have begun to recover. The Japanese maintain that there is enough recovery for them to hunt larger numbers and more species. They say they can hunt sustainably.
もちろんですよ。日本はですね、 RMP という非常に厳しい、管理方式を適用すればですね、資源を絶対に損なうことなく継続的にですね、捕鯨ができるということでですね、我々は早く捕鯨を再開すべきであるというふうに主張しているわけですね。
Japan has continually promised that they will follow stringent regulations established by the IWC's Scientific Committee. But there has been so much wrangling and dispute over how these regulations will be policed that they have never been adopted. The Japanese feel cheated. A vital part of the campaign is the Whale Culture Summit. Masayuki Komatsu believes that ancient whaling culture is inextricably linked to Japan's current ambition to whale commercially and sustainably.
In the Japanese histories, we start eating whales more than 5,000 years ago. This is a fight to restore our culture, our histories. And such effort to restoration would also, we strongly believe, to the notion of the sustainable use based upon our experience.
These school children from the old whaling village of Kaiowi have been taught an ancient whale hunting song. It is a perfect image to relay to the outside world.
毎回じゃあそうやりながらいろんな思いを込めて歌ってるんですね。はい。さて、クジラについてどんなことを勉強してるのかな。
クジラについては400年前から歌い継がれているということが。
このクジラ歌。
はい。
それを今自分が歌っててどんな気分ですか。
昔の人がクジラを弔う気持ちのように歌いています。
なんだか嬉しいね、コメントというかね、これからまた頑張って歌い続けてください。はい。そして、はい、クジラ食べたことありますか。
あります。
どんなお料理だった。
クジラの竜田揚げです。
学校で食べたんですか。はい、
学校の給食で食べました。
どんな味がしましたか。
とんかつの味がしました。
とんかつの味。若い子はそうなんでしょうか。とんかつの味。でもまた食べてみたいと思うと。
はい、思います。
はい、ということでした。ね、代表して3人にお話を伺ったんですけれども、これからも頑張ってかよいクジラ歌を歌い続けてください。本当にありがとうございました。皆様よろしくお願いします。
We are aware that there has been a quite deep whale culture before in quite regional the bases in Japan in the past. However, the Japanese government is using the people who really cares about the deep whaling cultures to legitimate their the current activities.
下関での捕鯨会議が日本の悲願であります捕鯨の早期再開につながりますよう皆様方のご支援をよろしくお願い申し上げます。
So do the Japanese people want to start commercial whaling? In March, the government published an opinion poll showing a 75% majority in favour of commercial whaling. No, they don't, say anti-whalers Greenpeace and the International Fund for Animal Welfare. Their poll, conducted by the independent pollsters Mori, finds that only 1 in 10 Japanese support whaling. So what do Japanese people really think?
少なくなってきてるんですよね、だからそういうだけのために殺すっていうのはちょっともったいないなっていうか。
絶滅の危機にあるとかそういうの僕分かんないんですけど、そういう関係で何ですか禁止されてるってことでしたら、僕はすごく分かるんですよ、禁止する内容が。ただ魚よりも大きくってなんでしょう、知能もあるからかわいそうだとか、そういう感覚はおかしいと思うんですよ、僕は。だったら牛や豚はどうなのって。
永久的にね、そういう、保存すべきものだと思いますよ。はい。
じゃあ商業的な捕鯨を再開するということについても
反対だね。
はい。
ですね、今いわゆるその捕鯨問題で、クジラが取らなくなってしまったじゃないですか。でいわゆる食文化としてはもう距離が空いてるわけですよね。だから改めて食べようとかも思わないし。
The most recent poll from an independent newspaper finds that support for whaling is at 47% and declining. Among young people, 60% were opposed to commercial whaling. Not a good trend for Messrs. Komatsu and Osumi. The problem they face is that many young Japanese look outwards beyond Japan rather than inwards to the preservation of traditional culture. These influences reach deeper than the screens. There is a vast range of foreign foods on offer.
Younger generations who never eaten whale meat is really increasing, and the people think that, well, it's not a food, but more than the watching or something protect things.
In all of Tokyo, there are only 2 dedicated whale meat restaurants. This is Kujiraya, the largest. The sign reads, Society for the Preservation of Whale Meat Culture. With set dinner starting from £25, whale meat is expensive fare.
クジラについてはやっぱし日本の伝統文化で歴史が古いじゃないですか。食べることだけじゃなくってもクジラっていうのは一頭骨から何からヒゲからみんな無駄なく使えちゃうわけでしょ。今はほらそういう歴史的な伝統文化だからこれは他の国に言われたくないよねって感じだよね。文
化としてまで、そこまで思わないですけど、だからって生きていけないわけでもないしだから国が食べるなと言うならば食べないし、
僕らの年代ではね、昔からそうね、小学生の頃は、普段食べてましたから非常に懐かしい記憶があります。だから当たり前のことですね。
This businessman is treating his secretary to her first taste of whale meat.
でもう多分こういうリクエストする機会とかもないと思うから自分でも食べに来ようと思わないんで、もうないかなと思って。こちらを食べるのが良くないっていうのはなんかテレビとかで見てて、それこそグリーンピースとかがなんかいろいろやって。
Dr. Usumi's researchers have won praise in scientific circles for their work in surveying and sighting whales. The killing of whales for research has received no such approval. The Institute's publicity video shows meticulous attention to detail in entirely bloodless surroundings. Everything is measured, all manner of tissue samples are taken to provide reams of data. So what is it all for?
ニューファインディングはたくさんあるんで、短く言うのはなかなか無理なんです。すごいたくさんのですね、我々新しい知見をすでに確保しておりましてですね。
Undoubtedly, a lot of detailed knowledge has been accumulated. But even the IWC maintains that the data collected does not justify the killing of whales. Below decks occurs what the video refers to as the processing of the byproduct. It is in fact the preparation of meat, blubber and other body parts for sale. Japan's research program and the sale of the byproducts are in fact permitted under the IWC's regulations. The current members are powerless to stop it. Greenpeace see the research program as a thinly disguised attempt to sustain the whale meat market until the commercial ban is lifted.
これはですね、全く不届きな卑劣な行為だと思いますですね。たくさんの金をですね、集めて、それで、船をですね、非常にコストのかかる船を何秒まで派遣してですね、そして我々の調査を妨害するだけで終わってるっていうのは本当にけしからんしもったいない話で。
These images sometimes find their way onto Japanese television, much to the frustration of Dr. Osumi. Both sides are aware that this is a propaganda war for the camera. It is a war that Greenpeace have been winning. To the consternation of the anti-whaling nations, the Japanese have extended their program in the waters near Japan. And here, Dr. Usumi's researchers have come up with a theory he hopes may provide the campaign with its trump card. It has to do with the contents of whales' stomachs. Two floors up from Dr. Usumi's office is the Japan Whaling Association. Here they're turning this research into a powerful new message for the people.
This is t-shirts. Whales increase, fishes decrease. Human beings being kicked out. Oh, this is the same thing. 3 types of t-shirts.
Do you have them in Japanese as well as in English?
No, only English.
It is in English to create a trendy image that appeals to Japan's lost generation. The message is that the whales are devouring Japan's vital fish stocks. A message designed to strike fear among a nation of fish eaters. Tsukiji Fish Market in Tokyo is so busy it has its own traffic police. It's the largest fish market in the world. The Japanese, who form less than 2% of the world's population, consume 10% of the world's fish. Each day, 2,500 tons of fish are sold. a turnover of $23 million. There are powerful interests at stake, and the Japanese fish catch is currently in decline. Tucked away in the corner of the market is the whale meat stall. The poster on the left shows a whale devouring fish. The caption says, "This must stop."
例えばこれは、アンチョビですよね。それから、これは、アラスカンポーラックですよね。それから、これはコモンスクイッドですね。そういうふうにですね、これは、サウリ、パシフィックサウリ、こういった日本人がですね、大好きな魚をですね、大量に、食べてるという結果がすでに、我々得られてるわけですね。
最近魚をめぐってクジラと漁業との競合が各地で起こっています。日本の漁業を守るためにも私たちはクジラの間引きが必要と考えています。
But can science really be so simple? The bulk of the fish in Dr. Asumi's calculations are sea creatures like krill and deep-sea squid, a significant part of the diet of many whale species, but rarely eaten by man. Outside Japan, the consensus is that fishermen, not whales, are threatening the world's fish stocks. Before commercial whaling began, there were plenty of whales and plenty of fish. Dr. Asumi's theory isn't entirely accepted in Japan either.
I don't trust if people start to say that if you remove certain species of whales, you will get more fish. This logic is another problem. I don't trust it.
There is no evidence that culling the whales would lead to an increase in the fish catch. Most fish are eaten by other fish.
Is it just propaganda to convince the Japanese population and other populations?
If government or somebody say such idea based on insufficient evidence, that must be propaganda.
商業捕鯨が禁止されてから15年が経ち、その間クジラはどんどん増え続けています。このクジラたちが食べる魚の量は人間の食べる量の3倍から。
Nonetheless, the whales eat fish message is being spread far beyond Japan's shores. The Jolly Beach Hotel, April the 15th, 2002. Delegates have come from all over the Caribbean for a Japanese-sponsored symposium on the whaling issue. All flights, food, accommodation, and incidental expenses have been paid for by the Japan Whaling Association.
What we consider as a very
Dr. Dan Goodman works for Dr. Asumi,
which we expect,
and he's brought the doctor's brochures with him.
I'm Dan Goodman, and I work for the Institute of Cetacean Research in Tokyo, and I am an advisor to the government of Japan on the issues of whaling and the International Whaling Commission. I will pass this one photo around the room and follow it with another. This photograph is taken by Greenpeace. It is the most widely used photograph on whaling in the newspapers. The myths and mistruths of Greenpeace become the public view because the media has uncritically repeated them over and over again. Why, for example, don't the pictures that we have showing whale stomachs full of fish, the same fish that fishermen are trying to catch for people, why don't these pictures get used in the news?
Most of the delegates are journalists, and Dr. Goodman has high hopes of them.
And I invite you to take a copy and to use some of the pictures to explain this issue to your publics.
Horace Walters used to represent St. Lucia at the International Whaling Commission, where he consistently voted with Japan.
The whale is the biggest consumer of our fish. You know, the fish we want to feed our people, the whales are eating them because we have protected the whales for over 10 years in a moratorium, and they have recovered.
A bold statement in a region where little relevant research has been undertaken. The only protected whale species known to be consuming large amounts of fish and squid in the Caribbean is the sperm whale, which dives deep for creatures that are not caught by local fishermen. Nevertheless, the whales eat our fish theory is finding converts.
I understand that some species of whales are relatively underexploited. In fact, I'm told that whales, for instance, consume up to 5 times the annual output of the entire world's population.
There was a discreet Japanese presence at the symposium.
Our fish catch has been depleted over the years.
They were scheduled to attend the meeting, but in the end chose not to come in. However, inside the conference room, they were not forgotten.
We have to say thank you to the government of Japan in many of our islands, because our governments would not be able to establish the kind of infrastructure to modernize our fisheries. In St. Lucia, I can tell you, we've had $50 million pumped into our economy in the last 15 years, in fisheries only.
Japan's Official Development Assistance, or ODA, is a channel through which millions of pounds are being invested in fishing facilities among the Caribbean nations. This money comes from the Japanese Fisheries Agency, and there are allegations that this investment is actually being tied to votes at the IWC.
We go to the IWC and we stand up for what we believe in. We are not being instructed as to what we should say. We say it coming from the heart. You know, these are issues for us that are critical. I mean, there's no need to discuss it with Japan. We know what we want to say. We know the issues. I mean, we're not dumb.
Last year, Mr. Komatsu stated that there was nothing wrong with using ODA money as a major tool to gain what he describes as appreciation of Japan's position. Earlier this year, he emphatically denied allegations of vote buying.
It's untruth. We, as a government, extended ODA over 150 nations all over. It would include India, Argentina, and Brazil, or Kenya, Mexico. All those nations are biggest top recipient of Japanese ODA, and their position is anti-whaling. So I don't know why they believe that Japan is using ODA as the vote buying. That is untrue.
Whether vote buying or not, the Japanese have been slowly building up allies among small island nations in the Caribbean, the South Pacific, and with some impoverished African countries. With a few more recruits this year, they might be able to obtain a simple majority in Shimonoseki. So what were the camera-shy Japanese delegation doing at a Japanese-financed whaling conference 5 weeks before the IWC meeting? An interview was arranged the next morning, but when the crew arrived, the prospective interviewees were already leaving.
The name of each of you?
Name?
Yeah, just so that we can contact them.
Mr. Ishikawa.
Ishikawa, yeah.
Masahiro Ishikawa, ex-Deputy Director General of the Japanese Fisheries Agency, an official known to have been a promoter of Japan's whaling policy to the Caribbean.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
No, thank you.
Dr. Dan Goodman later maintained that Mr. Ishikawa and his team were on fisheries business unrelated to the whaling conference. A grand reception for the great and the good of the pro-whaling lobby. Tonight, Mr. Komatsu is less concerned about the amount of fish eaten by whales than he is about the number of whales that are being eaten by Japanese. There are reports that whale meat wholesalers are having trouble shifting their stock. This is an opportunity to present the wealth and variety of whale cuisine. There is raw whale meat sashimi and blubber. But the emphasis is on innovation, on whale food that will win over the lost generation.
Third category is sort of new adjustment for the younger generations, like a hamburger style or a French or Italian styles.
Aren't you going to need to get the prices a bit cheaper to get the younger generation to eat?
Yeah, because the younger generation must eat volume more. So in order to have more volume, I think the price should be cheaper.
に向けまして、これよりグランドオープンです。皆様お願いいたします。それではどうぞ。
The battle has moved to the high street. It's the opening ceremony of Shimonoseki's new shopping centre, just in time for the IWC. Situated on the first floor is Japan's first whale fast food restaurant. On offer is deep-fried whale meat roll, whale hot dogs, and the 100% whale meat burger.
小さいお子さんからですね、まず食べていただきながらですね、クジラに馴染んでいただくと。そしてゆくゆくはこの何と申しますか、この刺身とかいろいろなものにですね、挑戦していただければなと。まず子どもさんからクジラというものの美味しさを知っていただくということが必要を感じたものですから。
They're at knockdown prices. The whale hot dogs and deep-fried whale roll are going for around £1.60. The whale burgers are only 20 pence more.
当社の社長の方針として、やはり下関市民の方にですね、お安くクジラに親しんでいただこうと、こういう考え方からお値段もですね、このようにですね、非常に安く出させていただいて。
But to sustain low prices, the whale meat sellers are going to need more bulk. To get more bulk, Japan is going to have to kill more whales. To kill more whales, Japan is going to have to win at the IWC.
最近魚をめぐってクジラと漁業との競合が各地で起こっています。日本の漁業を守るためにも私たちはクジラの間引きが必要と考えています。
It's late April. The city of Nagasaki is one of the final stops for the whaling campaign van. Here, the team will gather more signatures of support and participate in a very special occasion. After 5 months at sea, the Antarctic fleet has returned, and it's an open day for the public.
日本は海洋国家です。海洋国家はですね、いろんな地方の都市にですね、漁業に非常に深い関わりを持った地域が多いわけですね。こういうその関わりの深いところにクジラと魚、クジラと 海との関係のですね調査について知ってもらうというのが目的です。
75% の国民がですね、捕鯨の再開を支持するという結果が得られてますですね。これはやはりこういったその一般公開のですね、成果の一つであると我々大変嬉しく思っております。
Yet the more recent poll put support at 47%. As well as the T-shirts, there is a wide range of jewellery and trinkets made from different whale parts. And then there are the posters.
そうですね。やはり、魚種に波によってはね、何かしら増えとるね。
A traditional theatre group reenacts the hunting of whale for food and the selling of it to the people. Could this be publicity for the painted container truck that has just unloaded a large consignment of whale meat? The writing on the boxes and cans tells the customers that there are 1 million minke whales in the world. The IWC scientists do not recognize this estimate. The tins are going at a bargain price of 3 for a $5. Further along, free whale meat soup is being doled out. That's enough to feed 6,000. The following day, a national newspaper confirmed rumours of a vast surplus of whale meat, suggesting that last year 220 tons remained unsold. Could this have been some of the unsold stock? The whaling campaign van is here collecting signatures. All in all, everything seems to be going to plan. Later on, there's a ceremony to welcome the fleet and the van team. Another 12,000 signatures are presented to Noriyoshi Hattori, the van's team leader. They've reached a grand total of 200,000. There is a mood of confidence, even bravado. Conversation then turns from the battle with Greenpeace to whaling negotiations.
ね、少しは取ってもいいけどね、よぎ取るのはダメだってこういうわけで、だんだん言うことが変わってきますよね。
いやだけどね、彼らの言うことなんかほっとけばいいですよ。聞くことねえんだ。さっきの伊沢先生の話じゃないけども、あいつらと交渉なんかしなくていいんだから、こっちの言うことだけ言ってりゃいいんだよ。であいつらほらかけねえでしょ、ふっかけてくる。でここでふっかけてくるでしょ。それで日本がこうやればね、ゼロにするだけなんだよ。あんなもんね、嘘つきなんだから、あいつらは。最初から交渉するつもりねえんだから、一方的にやってりゃいいんですよ。相手にしなければいいんだよ。相手にしないとだんだんビビってくるでしょ、今のダブダブでもグリーンピースでも。そうですよ。どっちが正しいか、誰が見ても明らかなんだ。ああいうね、理解力に乏しい頭でもやっと分かってくるんですよ。本当に。そう思ってりゃいいんですよ。ね、自分ら優越だと思うほど頭の理解力っていうのはやっぱりね、あれなんですよね、落ちるわけですよ。だからね、どこに比べてね、俺の方が優越だなんて思うっていうのはね、やっぱこのなんか人類の多様性だとかそういうことを理解してないってことでしょ。あまりにもシンプルなんですよ、あれは。私ぐらいなもんだ、シンプルなのはね。
下関での捕鯨会議が日本の悲願であります。捕鯨の早期再開につながりますよう、皆様方のご支援をよろしくお願い申し上げます。
As the campaign came to a close at Shimonoseki, the pro-whalers were in a confident and bullish mood. But a long shadow hangs over them. With every year of the moratorium, the strength of public opinion ebbs ever further away. For the whale hunters, victory must come soon.